Hi all, how are you? We took a week off last week, which I had kind of suspected would be the case just with what I had been expressing to all of you over the course of the past month for sure, how stressful and overwhelmed really I have been really mostly in my work life, but whenever that's the case in your work life, it will bleed over into your out of work life because when you're frazzled, it just causes every arena of your life, I suppose, to feel more stressful than it usually does. And so I decided last week to take a week off from podcasting, and it did ease my week a little bit. And it got me to thinking. So let me backtrack a little bit. So this is, look at me here. I need to look it up. This is Tea Time with Tiffany, episode number 113. So what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the podcast and what I'd like to do, I guess, with it, just given the reality of my current situation and what I sort of have planned for the fall and early part of the winter in terms of the blog and other creative projects for this community. And we will step away, I guess, if you will, from the little format that I had devised starting with episode 100, where I talk about a book, a prayer, something creative that I'm working on, because I just wanted to devote the entire time to just sort of fleshing out this idea that I have for the time period coming up. And it also ties into one of the other creative endeavors, I think. So I'll explain all of that in a minute. So this is like just a chatty episode of Tea Time with Tiffany. And I'll let you know my thoughts on kind of where I'm headed with this little enterprise of mine. So I've done 112 episodes before this one, and the 99 first episodes, first they started out as video only, and then I added on an audio component at some point near to midway through. And I was just going strong with it, keeping up every week pretty much. I would miss every once in a while, and I always have a little hiatus in terms of both blogging and podcasting over Christmas and New Year's, which I think is pretty common. But besides that, it was mostly a weekly endeavor. And so I had this, heart to heart with myself that I had talked about a week or so back. And I just really said to myself that I am trying to do too much. And I had written about this, and I got a lovely response from all of you in the community. And it was just so helpful and soothing to read all of those words. This is a small little community and endeavor of mine. I know more people read than comment on any kind of regular basis, but not a lot. And that's okay. This was always just something that was near and dear to my heart. And I've always enjoyed it in terms of the blog generally. I added on the podcasting element in video and audio form starting in 2015. So it's been just over 2 years for that. And I'm still very much enjoying it. I am finding just given how my job has changed and how stressful that has been, that it's become very difficult to do both during the busy time of the semester. And I came to the realization that that is okay. And I had an idea that I think is a good one and is a good fit, and I think that it's going to work. And as soon as I thought of it, I felt better. And to me, that is the sign that I'm headed in the right direction. So last week when I didn't podcast, I thought, like I had said before, maybe I can do it every other week, or every 3 to 4 weeks, and that's fine. I don't think that there's anything wrong. I listen to a monthly podcast and I like it really well. They have a schedule. They come out the first week generally of the month, and when I was podcasting with Christina back when we were doing Plan Not Scripted, that's what we tried to do too, was have a given week of the month, and I think that works fine. But Tea Time has always been very, very slice of life rather than thematic. And so I have always felt that it worked well on a weekly basis. And so it's like, well, I guess it'll work to do it every other week or every 3 weeks, but something about that just felt unsatisfying to me. And then I had a thought. Isn't it a good thing when a person has an uninterrupted and clear thought? And so I realized that there are a lot of shows, so that can be audio. It certainly is in the old format of the way that we used to watch television before the advent of streaming media. There are seasons for shows, and I think that right now my life is such that I'm going to have seasons in which I'll be able to both blog and podcast, and some seasons where I won't be able to do both. And to me, it makes sense to have the audio podcast be seasonal, where I will podcast every week for a given run of several months or whatever the case may be. I know I'll have that figured out ahead of time, and then have a hiatus during these high teaching times when I can just, you all know, it has been incredibly stressful and it takes a huge toll on me. And even though this is an outlet for me, it's just the time. I don't have enough time to do everything. And even things that you enjoy become stressful when you feel pressed for time. And when I thought that, I realized that that is really a perfect solution for tea time. And my heavy teaching load months, at least for the time being, are September and October for the fall semester. And then it will be end of January, all of February, almost all of March, really, in the spring. But we're talking about some changes to the way that we're doing this that may make the spring not so bad, but I guess we can come back to that another time. So I think that that's what I'm going to do. I really enjoy it's a lot faster for me to write a quick post during the weekend. Sometimes that just really is a balm to my soul when I really need a quick break over my lunch to chat with you all and to talk about whatever it is that is on my mind that day. That's how I've always approached this blog, and I want to be able to continue to do that, and I'll be able to. So I think that for the rest of September and October, Tea Time will go on hiatus. And the podcast does take me a little bit longer each week because of the audio editing. And so not having to worry about that until our teaching time is over will be a huge, huge relief off of my plate. So, I mean, even just talking about it right now, it feels like the right thing to do. And I just thought it would be best to talk about it in this format, since obviously you all, as the podcast listeners, are going to be mostly finding out this information from the audio format rather than necessarily reading on the blog. So I thought it would be good to just have like this little hiatus episode. But the thing is, I know exactly when the podcast will come back, and I think that that's what makes the seasonal component make so much sense. So, I finished teaching in early November. I'm going to have a ton of grading to do after that, but my main source of stress will be relieved. It's not really the teaching so much. I mean, certainly, 11 classes a week is a lot, and so that takes up time and causes a little bit of stress, but it's really the outside of class stuff. I have 250 students, and it's very difficult to manage. We're talking at work how we can make this better because the load is not manageable for any of us. That's all a good thing. But what's been happening is that just all of the stress of dealing with all of these technical problems that we've been having times 11 in all of the online components of each of these courses that I'm teaching, where all the content lives, all of the students emailing about all of the technical problems we've been having. It has been so time consuming and stressful. And then, like I said, it just carries over into when I'm at home, I'm worrying about all this stuff. It has not been an easy situation. And so it just, to me, it makes sense to have Tea Time be just on hiatus for now while this craziness is ongoing. And then the first or second week of November, Tea Time will be back, and we'll have a late ordinary time and Advent series of Tea Time. And I think that's really going to be perfect. Then Christmas will come, and we take a couple weeks off then anyway. And then I'll decide what I want to do in January. Do I want to have a short season before the spring semester starts up, or how I want to handle that? But I'm just going to take it one step at a time. And I think that that's going to work out really, really well. So I'll just have, sort of like month to month segments where I'll have a weekly podcast. And then there'll be, a month or two where it'll be on hiatus. And absence makes the heart grow fonder. I think that it's going to work out really, really well. And I think that in podcasting, consistency is very important. And so therefore you all of the listeners will know exactly when we're going to be on, when we're going to be off. It won't be from week to week like, gee, is there going to be a show or not? Because I think that's sometimes life happens, and so what are you going to do? But if that's something that happens regularly, it gets to be a drag for everybody. So this way, I think that it was going to work out really, really well. So just taking not even 2 months, all of October for sure, into early November, and then these last couple of weeks here in September. Well, just one more week, I think. So it'll be like a five-ish week break, 5 to 6 weeks, and I will be recharged and refreshed when I come back, and then we can kind of decide what we want to do with things. Because interestingly, I have been really loving the way that I reformatted the show ever since the 100th episode, where we have What's on My Bookshelf and Prayer Corner and the Creative Commons, where we talk about books and what is going on in our prayer lives and anything that we're making by hand, whether it be sewing, knitting, any other kind of crafting. I've been really liking that. But what has happened is that I had that idea, just given everything that's been going on, about us having another place to hang out, because I'm not able to post as frequently as I used to. And so we created the Facebook group. Well, I have been digging the Facebook group, and it's not like this is like a hotbed, there's new posts every day. This is like a laid back, friendly atmosphere. But many of you have joined. We have a nice little group in there, and every week I post a gratitude thread and a prayer thread, so we can post what we're grateful for to sort of keep ourselves in perspective, which has really been helping me amidst the stress of my job, and a prayer thread where people can ask for prayer. Of course, people can post individual separate posts if you have something really on your mind, want advice, really need prayer right at that time. You're welcome to do that as well. But I've also been posting in there lots of book stuff, and it has got my creative juices really flowing, because I can do that anytime. I don't have to wait once a week for the podcast. So, I pre-order a book on Amazon. I post a thread in the group like, hey, look at what I pre-ordered. I really love, this series. And it has stimulated some really nice discussion, and I can absolutely be doing the same thing. It seems to make a lot of sense to me to do that with regard to the novenas that I pray every month, and other little Catholic tidbits that come up, not just novenas, but just saint things and other interesting prayers I find along the way. Rosaries, new rosaries and things like that, saint dolls. All of that is very amenable to just, quick instantaneous posting in the Facebook group, just whenever the spirit strikes. Same thing really with the creative projects. So I'm thinking about moving those things over to the Facebook group. I don't know if everybody is on Facebook, right? And I used to be a little bit more secretive about my private Facebook profile, because, everybody didn't know my last name, and I thought that that was a good thing, to just kind of keep these two worlds separate. I don't know, things have changed a little bit. I think everybody would agree. I write for Catholic Mom now, and so my last name is pretty visible for anybody who follows me on Twitter, or when I link over from this blog. And so it just didn't seem to make any sense anymore to be so separate with those things. I'm not necessarily Facebook friends with everybody that I don't know in real life, but I don't see any problem with with the group. It doesn't really matter if we're Facebook friends or not. and just chatting in there, and it has been going swimmingly. I'm really enjoying it, and I hope that everybody who has been participating has been as well. And I just think that that makes so much sense, especially for the busy times. We can, be much more, I get the notifications, and so I'll see like, oh, Marie has posted something, she needs a prayer, and I've been loving it. So I hope that you'll join us over there. Even if you're not super active on Facebook, I totally get it. I'm really not that active either in terms of just my own timeline. I occasionally post things with regards to my family. I'm tagged in a lot of dance stuff on there. That's my big dance community. And so sometimes that's why I keep things separate. But in terms of Facebook groups, I'm very active. And those are private groups, so then it kind of keeps all of your spheres sort of separated, which I like. And I just think that that is working. So if you're not particularly active on Facebook, I think that it's still something to consider, to become a member over there and just check in when you want. I know some people worry about, I don't want the distraction of all the notifications. I completely get it. So you should have your notifications set the way you want. Maybe don't have them set at all, and you just check in when you want to, when you have the time, and kind of see what's going on in the group. If you need a boost to your spirits, I think that that would be still a very happy plan if that's what works for you. So just something to consider. So as for the podcast, I'm going to decide how I want to format it after our season hiatus. It's certainly always going to be a life podcast. To me, hearing about somebody's life, they may be a computer scientist, and they may be a jogger, and they may not be married or have any children, and all of these things are completely different, right, from my own experience. But I always find things to relate to from other people's lives. And maybe it's because I'm a reader. I've always loved becoming absorbed in a story, whether it be a fictional story or a real story. And so I assume that all of you listening feel the same way. And so I know that I will continue to just, whenever we're having one of our seasons together, we're going to talk about what's going on in our lives, and you can post comments about for yourself. You can post back over in the group, the Facebook group. And I think that it just lends support, to each other, and you can always have a takeaway from what somebody else is going through, even if it's completely different from your own life experience. I am a firm believer in that. So, we'll continue to talk about what's going on in our lives. I'm always going to have wacky teaching stuff, dance stuff, knitting disasters, all of that. And I really just enjoy sharing all of that with you, and I hope that you enjoy it too. So that's certainly going to be the main focus of Tea Time. It always has been, and I feel confident that it always will be. So I did enjoy having a little bit more structure when I, was doing those 3 segments, and now I've kind of carried that over to the Facebook group, and so I'm not really sure what that means in terms of how I will structure Tea Time when it comes back in early November. I'm feeling confident that I will be struck by inspiration. The Holy Spirit will tell me what to do. Not that the Holy Spirit is really all that interested in this particular podcast. I don't think it's high on the list of priorities, but I feel good about the fact that I'm trying harder to listen. I'm not always good at listening for God, and I miss things in my day-to-day life because I'm an introvert and I'm so much inside my own head. And sometimes I don't hear things. And I really had felt recently, like for months, that I have been trying to do too much. But I don't ever want to, once I'm committed to something, I don't ever want to let go. It's just part of my personality. But I realized that just changing the way that you do something doesn't mean that you're giving up on it. And that's kind of where we're at. So I'll figure out, what I want to do. Like I said, it's going to be a life podcast. We're going to talk about lifey stuff, amusing stuff, family things, hobbies, and then I'll figure out how the structure is going to flow. But I feel good about it. I feel like this is where things are supposed to go. And in the meantime, on a weekly basis, I will be posting on the blog for sure. And that's always been where I have been at home. I'm a performer and I do like to talk. Yeah, so this format is definitely one that I want to keep around the podcast. So I just need the time to be able to devote to it. So we will be back in early November, and I will have an idea for how exactly it's all going to go. If you have any suggestions, of course, I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, I think that's kind of like where we're at, and I feel at peace about the whole thing. Yeah, fist bump. I think this is going to be good. And I would love to have you over in the Facebook group, like I said, as often or as little as you'd like. I am finding it it's like I'm floating on a feather when I'm over there, I see a notification from the group and I'm like, oh, it's Barb. And, everything is just always so uplifting. And I love it. So I'm really, really grateful for that idea. It was my sister, I believe, who originally gave me that idea. Yeah, and people are making connections over there, meeting each other, and I think that it's really, really lovely. So yeah, that's what I'm going to focus on between now and early November, the Facebook group and the blog. And I'm usually on Twitter, once a day. I just kind of like checking in there. It always is a nice distraction for me as well. So yeah, that's kind of our happy place with regards to new and social media right now. But sometimes I think it's just so important to take a step back. It's not always easy to do. I'm not always willing to do that. But take a step back and just reevaluate how you want to do things. So that's what I'm doing. And I covet your prayers so that we continue to have a fruitful, spiritually nourishing experience together on the blog, on the podcast, in the Facebook group. So that's what's been on my mind. Besides that, I've just been kind of going through my day-to-day life, trying to manage all of the stress that I've been under at work. I had a lot of successes, but of course some failures along the way, and so I just keep trying to get back up and try again whenever that happens. But things are great at home, and of course that's the most important thing. The kids are both doing well, adjusting to their new grades. They're both very cute, walking into school in their uniform together. I love that even though my kids are 5 years apart in age, that they go to the same school. And they will go to the same school even another year after this. I'm loving that. I see them talking, when they're walking up the path together. It's very cute. So that's all going good. Mike is back to teaching, and he's super busy too, but it's going really well. And dance is going great. I've got a show this weekend that I'm super nervous about. I would love your prayers for that as well. I'm dancing in a hafla without my troupe, so just me. And I'm nervous because some friends of mine who have never seen me dance are coming to watch. I'm super nervous because I put a lot of pressure on myself in these types of situations. So I want to do my very best. But I love the music that I picked, and I'm going to be improvising. So I hope it goes good and I don't trip over anything. It's in a restaurant. Yeah, so I'm nervous, and I have that on my mind too. I've been having a hard time sleeping. There's just so much on my mind right now. I'm sure you can all relate to that. You've had a season of life like that, even if that's not what your daily life is like right now. That's one of those ebb and flow things for sure for everybody. So I would love your prayers. I'll probably be writing about it next week, so you can watch that if you're interested in the dance posts. But I will sign off for now. But yeah, I look forward to talking to you in this format over in early November, sometime shortly after the Feast of All Saints. A lovely time of year. I'm so excited for Advent. So we'll be talking about tons of Advent stuff then. So maybe we can, okay, I'm starting to get ideas. And I do still want to do an Advent book club. maybe we could do the book club on the podcast. Let me know what you think about that. We still have to pick a book, so that's thing one. But after that, maybe we could have the book talk on the podcast, and I can also post a thread in the Facebook group too, to have lots of comments back and forth over there. Let me know what you think. So I'll talk to you on tea time sometime in the first or second week of November, but you will be seeing me on the blog every week for sure. So come and look for me. I always look for your smiling faces. I'm looking forward to talking to you all soon, and I will chat with you then. Bye.